What is up, guys? Good morning. I was trying to do a little bit of research here to get you guys started on this here. Good morning, good morning. Welcome into the live stream. It's going to be a different live stream today. Lots of information that was trying to refresh myself on because Daniel Kahneman is a very, very interesting author. And I wanted to get a couple of images here, so let me show you. These were the ones I was looking for. Welcome back, welcome back. Here's what they were. Yeah, this is the one. Cool. So this is a very different webinar today. We're going to be concentrating on a book that I had actually read quite a while back. It is Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow by Daniel Kahneman. I wanted to share these little bits of tidbits of knowledge that I had gathered from reading the book, and also tell you about Daniel's views on, what he thinks about the system of the mind. So today's webinar is going to be solely focused on understanding these two systems that drive our mind and animate them. Okay, it's a pretty interesting concept, and I want to go through it really quickly with you guys. It's going to be a pretty short webinar. Okay, so how are you guys doing? Yeah, this book is extremely good. If you haven't bought it and read it yet, I highly recommend it. Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow. This is the one. I was looking for the summary earlier because I've read it some time back, and I think you can watch this video, this one right here. This is a good one. He summarizes a lot of it. This is the actual book that I bought, which is a really great book in my opinion. Go read this book. I'm going to attempt to summarize the book today, but it's not really a good... you can't really summarize the book. And also for people who are not very good with reading dry books, you may take a little while to read this one. So personally for me, it took me 2 times to read this book before I could fully absorb all the vast knowledge inside it. Daniel Kahneman is a very smart guy. He is a psychologist and also a Nobel Prize winner. He won the Nobel Prize along with Tversky and a couple of others. Daniel Kahneman. Let me just show you guys the Nobel Prize that they won. So he won 2002 Economic Sciences. And I want to see here. It was... I wanna pick out that specific one. Nobel Prize, Daniel Kahneman. There we go. I feel like there should be a summary somewhere. Oh, is it this one? Yeah, so integrated economic analysis with fundamental insights from cognitive psychology, in particular regarding behavior under uncertainty, thereby laying the foundation for a new field of research. So this guy is actually one of the forefathers of the field that I am super, super, super interested in, which is behavioral finance. Okay, or behavioral economics, the same thing. Okay, behavioral finance is more closely linked to what Daniel was studying, but behavioral finance or economics is what I want to study, right? What I want to do my research in. Like eventually when I'm going to do my PhD, I'm going to concentrate on this topic, right? It's what I'm super passionate about, and I think that it makes big contributions into this world because of the way that the human psyche is. So Daniel is a author that very quickly figured out that the brain operates between, a couple of different systems, and there are exactly 2 systems. So just a little bit of a summary here. Obviously, all credits go to him. He is a genius, and he has this idea that there is a system that goes that thinks slowly. Okay, and then there's a system that thinks fast. okay? And the system that thinks fast, this is called system 1, all right? And the system that thinks slowly, this is called system 2, okay? And here's a little image to show you. Yeah, let's look at this one first. Here we go. So you have system 1 and system 2, all right? Now, system 1 is an intuitive and instinctive system, okay, and actually controls 95% of our brain process. It's an unconscious system. For example, when you are standing by the road, you hear a car coming by, system 1 is engaged, right? You hear the car go by you and the sound go like, right? That is your system 1 engaging, and your system 1 takes over your brain to tell you that there is a car approaching and pass by, right? It's a fast system, and it's associative and almost on autopilot. System 1 is also the system that you engage while walking. System 1 is also the system you engage while most of the time typing, and doing all the normal brain process that requires you to, you know, just be on autopilot, okay? System 2, on the other hand, is a system that takes a lot of effort, which is slow, logical, lazy, and indecisive. This is a system that requires you to dig deep and figure out what is going on in a specific situation, okay? So actually, Daniel has a whole bunch of different examples of system 2, all right? So system 2 is an effortful system. It's more logical, requires to make complex decisions. It's a slower system, rational system, and a conscious system. With system 1, you have a quick system, instinctive, automatic, little to no effort, unconscious, emotional, and oftentimes this is a irrational system. Okay, understanding these two systems of the brain will actually help you as a trader. Can any of you guess which system you engage while you're looking at a chart for analysis? Initially, if you are not a seasoned trader, what system do you think that you would engage just right off the bat looking at this, right? You would probably engage system 1 right away by saying that, oh, something is going up or down, right? But then you need to engage system 2 to carefully dissect what is irrationally or rationally going on based on the indicators you look at, based on the other signals that you look at, and then only can you tell, how you're actually having a bias, okay? So you need to understand how your system hoodwinks you in order to fully digest what the benefits are. Now, there are certain things called cognitive biases, okay? And this is what I was trying to find earlier because I was looking for this this one website that actually breaks down the cognitive biases. I think this one does it pretty good. So these are the cognitive biases that determine what are some of these things that you think about, but then your brain mistakes in your head. Okay, and what we call these are heuristics. Okay, it's basically a overlap between a cognitive bias and the idea that you have something that can be overlooked very easily. And sometimes you can say cognitive biases are heuristics, right? Okay, these are the same things. In this book, he tells you all about these different cognitive biases. Okay, so here are a bunch of them that I wanted to bring to your attention that are relatable to the stock market. Good morning, guys. How are you guys doing? Top morning. Oh, I just started this recently. Oh, really, Tanya? That's awesome. Good morning. System 1 is the one that falls blindly, foremost into trades. Yeah, exactly. That's what I think too, right? Let's see here. So, let's see. What is this? Oh boy. Oh boy. Yeah, there's a lot over here. Okay, we're definitely not reading all of this. But look at the amount. Look at the amount of biases that you actually have as a human. How crazy is this, guys? Misattribution memory, source confusion, cryptomnesia, false memory, less is worse effect, boom, boom, boom. Look at the amount of different things your brain can have as a prejudice. This is insane, right? Here's some of them that are important. I found a few here that were important, so let me just go through them with you. Confirmation bias. This is one of them that we always have a problem with in the stock market, right? We look for things that confirm our hypotheses. For example, we believe that QQQ is going to be bullish, and so we look for things that confirm that QQQ is going to be bullish without asking ourselves why QQQ is bullish, right? We engage system one and we let it go on autopilot to decide for us that QQQ is bullish. For example, right? I'm just giving you an example. But realistically, are we really bullish? That's the question you have to ask yourself, right? And so these are such of the systems that operate within our brain that we got to be careful about. And here's another one, the gambler's fallacy. This is definitely one that would be, absolutely engaged by most of us. So for confirmation bias here, the example here given is a police officer who is looking for physical signs of lying might mistakenly classify other behaviors as evidence of lying. You see, for the gambler's fallacy, for example, when you're betting on a roulette table, if the previous outcomes were red, then we might mistakenly assume that the next outcome might be black. However, these are events that are independent of each other, and therefore we can't really judge, right? Some people, what do? They bet on Tesla going up, and then it goes up, and then it the first time, and then it goes up again, and then it goes up again, and then they're like, oh, no, you know what? It has to come down now. And then they bet puts, right? And then what happens? Tesla keeps going up, right? And so this is the gambler's fallacy, right? Because they are gambling, they don't know what is actually about to happen. They take the probability and they extend it outward. It causes them issues, right? Okay. Another one is the gender bias. This one, not really. I mean, I would still like to go through this fallacy though. This one is one that classifies characteristics of a certain gender without supporting evidence. And so, for example, complaints of pain are taken more seriously when made by a male rather than a female patient. Women are perceived as better caregivers than men, and specific clinical syndromes are more readily diagnosed in women than in men. And students often rate female lecturers lower than male lecturers. These are all certain gender biases that happen, which should not happen, right? And so, here's a couple of examples of those things over here. That was actually a really good example, and I wanted to show. There we go. So, the role of biases in decision making. Okay, so there's something called the Monty Hall problem, and Daniel goes through this in his book, and I hope you like this one. So, it says, to illustrate how biases affect our decision making, the game show What is Behind the Door is a good example. So imagine you have these doors. Okay, assume that there are 3 doors. All right. Behind door one door is a fantastic price, a car. Behind the other 2 doors are mediocre prices of $1,000. Okay, you choose door 1, which the presenter opens and reveals the mediocre price. All right, so that's $1,000 in there. The presenter gives you the option to either keep the 1,000 or take the risk and choose between the 2 remaining doors. What should you do now? Should you keep your mediocre price, or should you take the risk of remaining the open doors? What do you guys think? What do you guys think? Let's see what you guys think. I think there's a delay in the stream, so I'm probably going to have to wait a couple of seconds here. But let's see how many of you guys can tell me what you think you would do. If, let's say, the first door shows you $1,000, right? Would you choose to open one of the other 2 doors, or would you take the $1,000 right off the bat? You would keep the $1,000. Milana says, keep the $1,000. I would keep it. Yeah, right? See, many of you guys would keep it. Okay, one person says switch doors. Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else want to chime in here? Because remember, these are all educational webinars. We're not in a stream where like, oh, you know, it's just whatever. Take the money, depends how much I value 1K. That's a good answer. Depends on how much I value 1K. That's a good one. Open the door. The first thing is to take the risk. Another door, take the money, but probably switch if I have 1K to burn. Open doors. Open because you'd either get 1K again or a car. Okay, that's a very good answer, Tanya. Unless you lose the 1K. Okay, great. I would open the door. Okay, so the answer here is you should open another door. Okay, so you should make a new selection, and the reason is because, see, you should rather make a new selection because now you have 2 remaining doors. Your probability has changed, right? This is called the Monty Hall problem, all right? And the reason why you should opt to make the second decision is because of this. When you initially made your first decision, you didn't know what the outcome was behind the doors, right? But after making the first decision, you now have more information about which prices are behind the doors. And now based on this information, you have now increased the odds of your chance because you're more likely to find a car in your second guess because the odds are 0.666 because it's 2/3, right? You have 2 more doors out of the 3, and that's 2/3 of the doors, right? So you have a 2/3 chance of picking the right answer here, right? And the total probability would be 1, therefore your chance is actually 66%, right? Most people, however, would decide to stick with the original price, and this is the cognitive bias that majority of you faced here, right? This is the interesting thing, right? It's you actually have a higher chance by picking the next door because you now have more information, okay? And so it says, I really like this website, the way they put together the things. That's why I was trying to find this website. The Monty Hall problem is an excellent example of how our intuitions and heuristics lead us to make poor decisions, right? However, there are lots of cognitive biases and heuristics that also affect our decision making. And so you have Kahneman, Slovic, and Tversky that listed 13 different biases that arise from the following 3 heuristics: representativeness, availability, and adjustment and anchoring. There are a total of 13 that they actually go through this in the book as well. Okay, and so here are the 3 heuristics, the major heuristics, which are cognitive biases. Okay, so representativeness. We think that the likelihood of 2 things happening is higher when the 2 things resemble or are similar to each other. For example, you're afraid of flying. However, it is more likely that you may be in a car crash than in a plane crash. Despite this, you still hate flying, but you are indifferent to hopping into the car. So, for example, the chances of you actually getting into a car crash or plane crash is actually higher to get into a car crash. But because you're afraid of flying, you view those 2 risks as the same. And therefore, you don't mind flying, but you would readily get into a car. But you overlook the fact that you have a higher chance of dying in a car crash. Does that make sense? And see, that's a clear cognitive bias, right? You're ignoring the statistic, the blatant statistic that's in your head that you would know or you would otherwise oversee, okay? And then here's another one, the availability bias, the heuristic, which is we tend to overestimate how likely something will happen based on how easily we can remember the same thing happening previously, which is this one is an interesting one. He gave an example of him meeting a friend in a restaurant and then meeting him 5 years down the road later. It was a pretty funny example. The book is a little dry, but honestly, if you actually put in the time to read it, it's an excellent book. So, for example, when a violent crime occurs in a neighborhood, neighbors and in the neighborhood will give a bigger estimate of frequency of these crimes compared to the reported statistics. And the reason of their overestimate is because the memory of the violent crime is easy to retrieve, which makes it seem like the violent crime happens more frequently than it actually does. So it's the availability bias that kicks in over here. Okay. The third one is adjustment and anchoring. And this, I think, is perhaps one of the most important ones. Anchoring is a big one. Okay. Our decisions and changes to our decisions are influenced by the first bit of information that we're given. It's the first thing, the first impression that makes your decision stick. Okay. For example, assume I offered to sell you a car for and I asked for $250. You counter with 200, right? You might think that this is a good deal because you bought the car for less than the asking price. However, your counter offer was heavily influenced by my asking price, and you're likely to deviate too much. Sorry, you're not likely to deviate too much from my asking price. So the fact that I anchored $250 into your head, that causes you to make a adjustment. Okay. So there are some other kinds of things here. I'll post a link to this one in the chat so you can have a look at it. But how do you guys find this information? You find it interesting? Because I highly think that this stuff all has to relate with trading. Okay, especially with anchoring, with the availability and representativeness. These are all things that affect us while trading. On Thursday, I'm going to go through a couple of others that are super important. There are the loss aversion theory. There is the sunk cost theory. There are a bunch of other things that I want to go through on Thursday that are super important. Today's like more of like an introductory to kind of go through these smaller, more basic ones, and go through the two systems as well. So you need to understand how your brain works before you even engage with the stock market. Because what is the stock market? It's accumulation of millions of different brains, right? And these million different brains, they come together every day and they sit together in a market and behave irrationally, right? So by the way, if you want this thing, you can go and read all of these as well. I'm gonna post a link in the chat so that you can go have a look at it. Yes, absolutely. I agree that psychology is harder to master than technical skills. That's the reason why I actually am very passionate about behavioral finance and behavioral economics, because that's exactly what I want to do my PhD in. And I will eventually do it in that field because it's just, something that I feel very passionate about, especially the fact that, people have a very tough time with these cognitive biases and the heuristics that come about from trading and then making losses. It's difficult to avert these things. So by the way, there is a little bit down here. How do you overcome your biases, right? Well, there also Daniel goes over this in the book as well, and he says, an easy way to do this is, you can break it down to 4 different things. You reflect on your past decisions, okay? And for example, here there's an example here that's using this would be, we tend to underestimate how much money we need to budget for certain areas of our life. However, you can learn how much money to budget by tracking your expenditure for the last few months, right? Using this information, you can better predict how much money you need for different financial categories. So you reflect on data and information that you already have to extrapolate what you need for the future, right? And then include external viewpoints. This is something that he brings up as well. You need to talk to other people and include different people's opinions to have your own views challenged. We call this implanting the naysayer, right? You need to have a naysayer in order to succeed in life. You need people to tell you that, hey, this is not right, this is wrong, there's a better way to do this. You need people to challenge your process, and then only can you grow as a person, right? Because if you don't have people challenging your process, how do you expect yourself to grow? I personally make it a thing for people to challenge my opinion, because I may be wrong, and to be honest, I don't mind being wrong. It's when you mind being wrong, that's when the problem is or starts to arise. It's nobody can be right all the time, and even I'm not right all the time, right? It's like you just gotta admit that there are other views out there, and even if somebody else's decision making process is compromised, you have to be able to view their decision-making process through an external viewpoint. And sometimes it's difficult to do this, but it's important to at least take it into account, to think about it, right? And then don't make any decisions under pressure. This one's probably the most important one, right? Take the necessary time, note the pros and cons, talk to family members, try to poke holes in your reasoning, and that's pretty much a good judge on how you can do this. So that's a good article there. There was this one, and you can have a look at that. As far as markets go today, looks like we're gonna kind of see a little bit of a bearishness for this. I got stopped out on some QQQ puts last night. I hope that today we can probably come down to 23.6 down here and prepare for the next wave up. So we've been running up for quite a while now. We need a wave down in order to push up this wave. So kind of prepared for it, and we'll see what happens. But apart from that, the webinar for today is over. Appreciate you guys taking the time to come out here. Tomorrow we'll have fundamental analysis of CrowdStrike. We'll go through the intrinsic evaluation, and then on Thursday another webinar on psychology. I see that absolutely more people prefer the TA kind of webinars, and next week we'll have TA webinars again. So maybe if this Friday, start thinking of what you guys want me to do for TA webinars next week. You know, whether it is finding patterns and stuff like that, or if you want me to go through a specific skill, I can definitely, you know, like how to draw channels, how to draw, you know, stuff like that. We could definitely be doing that. Appreciate you guys being here. Make sure you guys smash the like button. That would be really, really helpful for me as well, if you can. Apart from that, I want to say thank you and have a great day. Happy trading, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace out, guys. Short webinar. Keep it simple. No need to drag it out, right? Bye, guys. Have a good one.